Amapiano sound, it must collaborate. It must encourage collaboration, not isolation, not to isolate. And for me, it was very important because it was coming from home, South Africa, where the Amapiano sound originates and comes from. But Tanzania, with its roots, culture and collaboration and building the system was very, very important. It had to be a collaboration ecosystem. There was just no way around it, because it was a matter of saying, okay, yes, I come from a place where the sound and a lot of music starts here, right? In South Africa, we've been the pioneers and the driver, even where music lands, You look at a lot of American music still lands in South Africa, and we are very westernized, and cultured in that manner. But when you go to the other parts of Africa, East, West, Central, they are still rooted, right? Even their culture, even, clothing. If you look at the Maasai tribe, which, for example, I would compare to isiZulu. If you go to the skirts of KZN, people are very still traditional there. So it was very important to say who do I collaborate with, had to have the same vision. And respect goes a long way when it comes to language, because yes, you can learn the language and try and maneuver around it, but the people, they know it, right? And then obviously being allowed to be corrected from time to time, but also having the ability to say, look, I'm not trying to be, a Tanzanian, I'm not trying to speak Swahili in perfection, but it's to speak it in understanding. As much as I don't expect another person to be perfect in isiZulu. So when they get a small incorrection, or we do a small slip up there, it's just a minor, because nothing is perfect, right? Mistakes are allowed. So that was important, that even in collaborating, you also wanted to collaborate with people who had the vision to say, are you called for this? Because every gift and every area of anything that has to change people and the future or anything, you have to be ready for it. You cannot carry umphongolo. You cannot carry the ark, the covenant, if you are not part of the people that were supposed to carry that. I mean, we know of the man who literally tried to touch the covenant ark of God. He was struck to the floor. We know how the umphongolo was moved to another man's house. That man started being blessed and flourishing because it keeps its true purpose in what God created it for. So I was also very cognizant in that as I moved around, yes, you can find a lot of people wanting to collaborate who are musicians, let's do this, do that. But sometimes you find that God will simply say no. You listen to that. Or sometimes you want to collaborate with someone. You think, no, there's a way to, I think I can do something with that person. And you simply get a small rejection, And for me, I always connected to the spiritual assignment, never to the craft. It's never about, they don't want to do music because it's this type of artist, or no. It's always about, it's not God's timing, or maybe they're not aligned with my purpose. So the collaboration is very powerful, that the people that I've collaborated with were people who were called. If they didn't understand the calling and the purpose, they were at least willing to learn and to listen when I sold or when I explained the vision to them, which made it easy for the buy-in and for the negotiations for them to buy into the vision, which is why people would open up their hearts, open up their resources and time and so I'm very, very intentional and strategic when it comes to collaboration, because a lot of the work I've done myself at the back, from the strategy, the brand, everything. The Lord prepared me to be ready for it. And for years, I've been crafting, which is why now when it's time to implement, I know in terms of what is it, the texture that I'm looking for, even the people to work with. And you pick it up immediately. It can even be through a call, a Zoom, or sometimes you work with someone, you start, and then you realize along the way when people start showing their true colors that you say, oh no, maybe, you know, they were only fine for this season, but now it's time to let them go. And the same thing, people can also feel that, look, to sky, we worked, it's up to here, now it's time for me to move away. And it's seasons, right? And we always have to embrace them and welcome them with a pure heart and a pure spirit. Collaborations, I understood that you see, DJs move the culture. You know, the Amapiano song is very dominated by DJs because they move the culture. You know, they are always where the people are. So we wanted a sound that can also be incubated, that can also be you know, played as part of their set, not just in the words, but in the groove, in the music itself. So I understood that DJs move the sound, the producers shape the sound, and the artists interpret, or the artists, they explain the message. So the three work together, you know, where the producer in the studio, they are cooking, you as the artist, the vocalist, you are also writing the message that has to go out, and the DJs are sort of the vehicle. So those are the things, obviously, when I was looking at even collaborating, you know, whether it's, you know, we are thinking of radio or DJs, it has to be people, obviously, that want to play the music, whether locally or internationally, because the music will be always available, and DJs are always looking out for new music. You know, they'll go on pages and see what's new, especially when you are speaking loudly about the Amapiano. They are always looking for fresh new sound. So those are the things that I was looking at to say, we don't want to compete, you know, in egos, and we were very cognizant because the ego plays a lot in the creative space, especially among artists, because this one wants to prove themselves, you know. So ego, you always have to suppress it, you know. So I was able to build that ecosystem that would allow those different entities or parties to come in, you know, the DJs, as said, the producers, and myself as being the artist and collaborating with others. So I was thinking a lot about those things. Even I remember, you know, while the music would happen in Tanzania, I was thinking about the technical things. You know, I remember I'd be sitting in studio watching maybe Lawrence and the producer working. For me, I'll always be thinking business, and I'll always write things down. And he knows that I'll always send him strategies, send him this, the plan, because I never move without strategy. Strategy is my strong core point, which I've learned, and I don't abandon it because God gave me that ability to be strong. So even when I'm in church, things can move spiritually, people are high, I always bring it down to say, what is the what, the why, the when, and the why, you know, and the how come, all these questions, because you can't just be all over, you know, you always have to bring it down. So it helps sometimes to work with people who are willing to also, you know, work with you in the strategy and the process that you build and the technicality, because I'm very technical in how I execute things. So in collaboration, it's exactly that. So the Kingdom Sound deserves understanding, honestly. It deserves understanding, and it deserves respect for us to be able to express the God that we serve, because we are only expressing the power of God so that people can catch on the message, the knowledge of the good news of Jesus Christ. So collaborations require a lot of maturity, you know, and that's something I didn't just learn in music, but I learned even in business. Collaboration, you know, it should answer the questions like why you should never shrink, you know, why you should never dominate as well, because the shrinking comes when you don't know your own power and you don't know your own identity, you know. So for example, if a musician so-and-so or a business person so-and-so walks in, then you feel like shrinking, no. Or maybe someone speaks more fluently, you feel like saying less, Or when you know more and you are known more, you feel as if you should dominate people. No, that is not the Spirit of God in any form, actually. If anything, ego kills, right? So personally, for me, I'm a kind of person, I don't break under pressure. I usually don't crack. It takes a lot to crack me. And also, I'm one person, I never shrink myself, right? Neither do I dominate, but the knowledge and the calling in me is the one that dominates whenever I walk into a room. So whether I walk into a room, there are presidents, politicians, leaders, or whoever, or musicians, you'll never find me shrinking, right? And I think it's knowing myself, who I am in this kingdom of God, right? And also how I was brought from home. So I'm mostly confident as a person naturally. It takes a lot for me, or a weakness, to overpower me. So, and I never play on my weaknesses. I'll always play on my strengths. So, and that's something I learned. And also it helps where I nurture relationships in private a lot, in silence. You'll never know the giants that I hold. You know, I always tell people, and sometimes I'll sit and I'll be in a room, people will talk about someone that I know very well, and I'll keep quiet, you know, without saying anything, you know. And obviously the space that we are in of social media, people wanting to show off when they meet someone, it's pictures and that. I've learned the other way, you know. I've got people whom others respect. I can pick up a call for me and call them and say, hey, can you help me with 1, 2, 3? And this is a type of person, you'll never find me, you know, the name dropping, but in the case, so you'll never find me exposing those. I can mention in passing, you know, whenever we are working on something, to say, look, I'll consult so and so, because you want to protect relationships. So, and this is at different levels. It's not just musically, business-wise, you know, country-wise, you know, at different levels and scales. And I learned, I'm a believer of nurturing relationships. You know, relationships obviously go wrong, things can go wrong, but I never want to lose people who make a huge difference in my life, you know, people who play a good role. So that is always important, especially in the music space, where it's about show and tell, you know, I know who and who. For me, that's not wisdom. So in my maturity, as I collaborate, I always give people space. You know, it's like give honor where it's due. When someone has got a very good track record of being the best in the game, and they've crafted a sound and they are respected, give it to them. You know, give that due. There's no need for jealousy. There's no need for envy. There's no need to do all these gymnastics, you know, even amongst, you know, ladies or men in the gospel, because we know egos, they can try. You know, I always say, be yourself. You know, if you've got your own identity, do that. If you love the loud makeup things, then do that. If you want sometimes just to be natural, do that. You don't have to do what the industry says, you know. It's fine when the Amapiano general public artists, they do that, wearing shorts, showing this. That is who they are, you know. But myself as a leader in the church and a minister and a woman trying to also speak to other women, yes, I get my days where I'm wearing my shorts, I'm dancing, but I'm always cognizant, you know, how I look outside and how I look in the church. In the church, I look proper, but when I'm home, I'm home. When I'm at the beach, I will not wear a long dress. I'm in my bikini. You see what I'm saying? When I'm in the pool, I don't have to cover, you know. So maturity for me, I've learned along the way to say you preserve what you have, and also God is a preserver of things. So I always build in private, in silence, then grace shows in public. So that's always important, something that I've learned. So I'm never fazed about all these things, you know, social media. It's like, how many followers are there? No, you respect the people. Even if you are talking to 100 people, 1,000, 10,000, 1 million, how you execute is important, because I'm in the audience of one. God is watching, as I was saying, that we are watched by witnesses, you know, witnesses who have overcome, and they want us to see us overcoming in this battle on earth. So that's where I am. So collaborations are very important for me, that I never shrink myself, but I can dominate, especially where I feel that, look, now I'm being taken advantage of, or I'm being tried to be suppressed, then I'll just, it has to be clear to say, no, we are not in the same, we are not in the same space or level, because even in maturity, because sometimes the music space, it can test you, it can test you with character, it can test you in people just getting, or people just saying things, about Christianity, criticizing, saying something that is not biblically correct, and you're just sitting there shrinking. No, you have to stand up for what is true, but neither do you have to play judging to people. But unfortunately, because as children of God, we are called to separate. Judging is there because God judges. You have to know what is right or wrong. So there is no more condemnation, but God is a judge, and we are given the ability to see the difference from dark to light, so that we can judge, to say this is sin, this is not, this is right, this is. So obviously, as children of God, we will come out across even to the world as that. So I'm very careful and very thoughtful about those things, to say, how do I represent myself? Obviously wanting to work with others as peers and to be accepted in the genre, but not so much that it's either I shrink or I dominate or I get dominated. So these are things that we talk about with the team at the back whenever we look at things, but myself as the co-leader at the front, leading the process, because it's what God showed me. He showed me, so therefore he must keep on unveiling it and unpacking it. And for anyone out there, it's the same. If you are in music and you want to get into these different genres, be aligned with God's purpose first. Be aligned with God's purpose first. Make sure that God qualifies you, because when he qualifies you, he will carry you through the tough times. Even when the pulling down tries to happen, God will maintain you there. And yes, it is possible to them that believe and those that are called according to his purpose. In the next 5 years, the vision is to build sustainable working structures, especially that accommodate collaborations across nations. You see, I see myself as that bridge, within African countries, because I'm called into nations. So being in South Africa, where the sound comes from, and then obviously other nations wanting to learn. So I want to build those sustainable structures. I want to also build, mentoring, training programs, mentoring from a both spiritual and skills point of view, because the two have to balance, right? Musicians not foregoing the character, the spiritual gifts, the fruits of the Holy Spirit, and also overcoming the works of the flesh, and then where the skills. So the mentoring is something I've always done over the years. I've got a lot of young people, women, couples, married people, leaders, and so even in business point of view as a teacher. So I want to expand that, in terms of, as I learn myself as a student, then teaching others, because I've also been taught as a teacher. So the training, the mentoring is something to look forward to in the next 5 years. And obviously working with people with the knowledge. Those who have, I'm willing to partner and to collaborate them. Then it makes the message to go out quickly and faster, like wildfire, Obviously, I want to sound ownership, definitely in terms of the Amapiano gospel sound. The ownership is very important, because we know, obviously, in the different camps, people will tell you. So it would be good to have a hub and a place for, gospel church musicians, young people who are willing, they know, to say, I can go to that school of thought. Not only is it about the music, but it's also about the spiritual element where I can get to grow in the word, how to apply my gifts and how to apply the gift and the word of God in my gift. Obviously the tech integration, we're living in the times of AI, so myself, I come from technology side. So I look at even in my own personal business, there's a lot of things I use in the last 5-6 years, which are technologically advanced. I can write a book, a story, but I've got my own tools which help me to refine. I can design characters. I've got my own AI things that help me. So this new way, it's simply teaching people, because I used it as an efficiency, but obviously there was the rawness in there because we create it naturally. Then we use some of it just to help us with speed. And technology is good in that it helps you save money. It helps you save time in the efficiency, but it can be dangerous if you are a person who loves shortcuts, not wanting to do and follow the process accordingly. As said, doctors, they still follow the ethics of operating a human being when the person is on the ER table. So the same with music. It's good and well, everyone can now jump into this technology, but people who are called, we have to have that tech ownership, that tech integration and the architecture, and build it. And it's not building it myself. No, there are people who are gifted, who are producers, people who've been MDs, people who are in the technology space, designers, people who work, with coding and all those things. So I am in talks with such people, and from a music side, definitely, because someone who can know how to work the stems from scratch, but without the ability of knowing how to craft the amapiano sound, they are used to working the church sound, then that's where I come in from a technology point of view. So all these things about, technology prompting, and so it's something I'm not faced about, not fearful about, because I come from that background. If anything, I embrace them, and I'm always looking out for new technology, and I'm always quick to adapt. By the time people are saying, I'm doing it, I'm like, oh, they're like, you've been doing it. I'm like, yeah, it's been a year or two, because when you are in that space, you have to always be stay abreast and stay challenged, without sitting back. You always have to improve and develop yourself. That's what makes you sharper and separates you from the clutter and the pack, so that you can be a standalone, and show your gifts in terms of what God has given you and the ability. So I look forward to those things in the next 5 years. A lot of traveling, definitely, getting to know people, engaging into the culture, the music, and just growth. Even myself personally, I've grown a lot in the last 6-7 years of being silent, personally, in my personal journey as life. So I want to share that with people through the music, through the teaching, so that the people can overcome. So that people can become winners. As we say, God is our conqueror, Mshindi, So I look forward to that. So the next 5 years are very important for me, because I work in periods and phases of 5 years. Even my life, I know that if I'm going through something, it's going to be a season of 5 years. Then after 5 years, there's a change.